Unfortunately, shaving day is tomorrow, but I couldn't wait to show you what I've got my hands on. This thing! It's a Bush soundbar. Bush is a brand owned by the UK retail chain Argos, or Sainsbury's, their parent company. It's all the same these days. With it comes this, a subwoofer, with a cute little driver underneath. A good friend of mine has owned this kit for years, however recently the subwoofer just won't play ball. Thankfully it's old school and connected with a wire. Remember those? Back when stuff was easy to diagnose and fix, before it was all wireless and a bit of a nightmare if things went wrong. So, what's wrong with it? Can we fix it? And then, what do we do with it? Because Bush is a well-known brand, however if any of you are remotely into your audio, you'll know that they don't really have the best reputation. But I have to jump at their defence here and say that this particular soundbar is actually quite good, when it works at least. Let's see what we can do with this one. For a bit of kit from a low-end manufacturer, it has a surprisingly high number of inputs, including Bluetooth, which is pretty handy if you just want to use it to play some music. We're going to go for the good old 3.5mm auxiliary in, connected to the laptop, playing some royalty-free music. What a treat. Let's try the obvious things first. So, connected to the subwoofer with a multimeter, and if we set that to ohms, we get open line. Okay, this might turn out to be easier to diagnose than I thought. Just to be sure, let's see if we can make those numbers dance by connecting the subwoofer output straight to the AC voltage input of the multimeter. Pretty conclusive. Well, I guess it's tools out time. Let's see what's inside, and if we can fix it. One of the first things I noticed when flipping this upside down is that it uses a quick release connector on the subwoofer itself. Connects to here, and looks like this. Anything like this is a potential failure point, so what we're going to do is test here and see if we get any readings. Nope, still open line. Oh well, it was worth a go. Let's open her up. The problem we've got is this is the best vantage point we have really, because the mount I'm using for my camera isn't really tall enough to fit comfortably over the sub for an overhead view. So we'll try not to stab the screwdriver through the cone while we're doing it. It's just held in place by 4 Phillips screws. You may have noticed that the dust cap in the middle of the cone has been shoved in at some point. Won't affect any operation and certainly won't have caused a failure. I imagine it's been like that for some time. I know this has been in place for many years now without being moved, so I imagine it was when my friend moved house a few years ago that it was shoved in like that, but as I say, it's of absolutely no consequence. The problem I can see is that the speaker, rather than being round, has got the tabs sort of stuck out slightly. It's a bit of an odd shape, so if we need another driver, don't know if we'll be able to find one. We might just have to use another passive subwoofer. There we go, let's have a look. Eight ohms, 100 watts max. Now I don't know about you, but that seems optimistic given this is either a 5 or 6 inch unit. 100 watts from Bush. I somehow doubt that. If we do get it working though, we're not going to test the point at which it explodes, because it'll be a bit of a victory if I manage to bring this back to life. What we're going to do is disconnect the speaker here and see if we can see anything obvious. It's got the vibration resistant spade connectors, so you need to sort of push the little tab in to release them. Quite common on audio kit. Especially something with a fearsome 100 watts maximum output. I'm going to give it all the protection it can get. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so this is the unit. What we'll do is we'll connect it to the multimeter and see what happens, if anything. I've also got to apologise for today's creaky chair, which you may or may not be able to hear, but it's driving me mad. There we go. Completely dead. That's a shame. Okay. Probably going to have to hunt for a replacement, but don't really know if we're going to be able to find anything. There is a part number on there, so I'm going to have a quick look and see if we can find one online. Any other sort of identifying features? Oh, hang on a minute. Oh. Well, that'll do it, won't it? Let's bring the zoom in a little bit. Oop. One of the wires has completely come away from this connector. Well, I didn't expect it to be quite that easy. Tell you what, let's get a multimeter on it and just confirm. Yep. Once I've got a good connection, that's a pretty solid 8 ohms. Right. Okay, didn't expect that, but there we go. How on earth am I going to solder that back on there? Because this is crimped, so I can't remove it. I'm just going to have to sort of hold it. What we'll do is we'll get some nice fresh solder on it. Use some long nose pliers to hold the wire to the back of the connector once we've reflowed some nice fresh solder on there. I do apologise for the camera angle, but I can't find a way to balance the speaker in a way that lets us see what's going on. So you just have to bear with me, I'm afraid. The iron. Going to go for the usual technique. Going to flow some fresh solder onto the connector, suck it all away, and then we will just deposit some more fresh solder on there without the old, probably lead-free solder still being present. My channel's starting to sound like a front for promoting the use of leaded solder. That's really not the case. The problem is that this is an item prone to vibration, and case in point, it's failed. So we don't really want to introduce any more weak points. So we're going to use classic solder, or leaded solder, or whatever you want to call it. In quantities this small, it's really not going to do the planet any harm. Especially if it helps a piece of electronic equipment live on for many years when the new replacement would inevitably be much, much worse for the environment. Anyway, rant over. Let's get soldering. Now there is actually a hole through the connector that you pass the wire through, so let's open that up a little bit. Use something pointy like a multimeter lead and just see if we can clear a nice path through that. There we go, that's looking pretty good. So, well, my fingers are a bit fat for that unfortunately. Let's try the long nose pliers. Magnet's making things fun there. Oh, there we go. Oh, happy days. Right, I've never done this before. This is the first time I've ever actually repaired a speaker just by itself. So we'll push that through as much as we can because the cone travel will obviously need that free wire to move around. And let's get a dab of solder on there now. What on earth is that? Oh, it's the multimeter. Oh, didn't know it beeped. That's a new one. Feels nice and strong. Looks like a good clean joint. How will it test? There we go, straight down to 8 ohms. What we'll do now is pop it all back together and see if the whole thing works. Let's fire up the laptop and see if she runs. We are reconnected and ready to test. Auxiliary in. I'm sure you'll agree that that is immediately noticeable, and the subwoofer is indeed working. What a great easy fix! I want to know more about that 100 watt claim though, because looking on Bush's website, they actually do claim some pretty generous numbers for this. How loud does it go? In the name of science, we're going to use this, a 20 Hz to 20 kHz frequency sweep, and what we're going to do is crank it right up, and we're going to see just how good it is. Obviously what you hear depends on what you're listening to this on, but I've got a pretty good microphone on this end, so if you've got some good headphones or a decent audio system, you should get a fair feel for what I experience here. Oh! Oh my goodness. Ah! Yep, curiosity's got the better of me. That 100 watt subwoofer, to be fair, really did put in quite a good show there on a frequency sweep. So, how much excursion does it have? Let's have a look. That's actually pretty amusing and a bit impressive, I guess. The cabinet started walking across the table, I had to follow it with the camera. I can't lie, that was a lot louder and, to be honest, a lot better than I expected. Here are the technical specifications on Bush's own website. Interestingly, they list a power output of 200 watts maximum. Now maximum is one of those figures they can fudge to basically look however they want, or in not so nice terms, lie about. Cleverly, they've listed amplifier and main unit separately, so they can say the amplifier has a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, which I'm sure it does. Not difficult to make something like that. However, when it comes to the drivers in the speakers, that's not going to happen. So separately, we have a response of down to 35 Hz listed for the subwoofer. I still think for a 6-inch unit, that's a tad optimistic. Less than an hour after filming the video you've just watched,
I realised I've got to drop the Rover 75 that I've just put through its MOT, which is the previous video I uploaded, back with its owner. And unfortunately, the stereo in this car, for whatever reason, just hates my phone and won't connect to it. So whenever I do this, I have to drive there and back in silence, which is a bit of a shame. Not today, because the soundbar has Bluetooth. And I have a Ryobi inverter to power it with. And the subwoofer's in the boot, where subwoofers belong. So it's been mended for about an hour and a half, and we're going to stretch its legs. What a great solution to a problem that shouldn't exist.
I'm one of those people that believes that every day is a lesson. And for me, the takeaway today is, let's look past the brand on a product before we assume it's either great or complete garbage. Because even though it comes with this remote, which is the least impressive remote I think I've ever seen, it's actually pretty good. So, in terms of what I'm going to do with it now, I think it's earned a place on the wall of the workshop. Because when I did my K-Series head gasket replacement earlier this year, I was using a portable Bluetooth speaker that didn't really like the cold, went flat. I then put it on a shelf, couldn't find it for half a day, which was quite annoying. I can wall mount this, it'll be out the way, and as long as I can get to grips with using this little thing, I think it'll be a good addition. And that's about it really. I would do a bit more in-depth testing, but not going to lie, I have another car to get on with servicing, which I'm going to do in the garage, and now I'm going to go and wall mount this bit of kit. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate that you made it to the end of the video. Do subscribe if you enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll see you next time. In the meantime, take care. Cheers!